You sit in our classes every day.
Taking notes.
Texting someone?
Trying to avoid my glance.
Laughing with your friends.
Hoping to dissolve into the background.
Standing out for all the wrong reasons.
Fitting in for all the right ones.
Lost in the crowd, or maybe life of the party.
We see you in your rural cornfield bubble, isolated and alone in all this open space, wondering why the world forgot you were here. We see you. We know that somewhere in there, you might still have that scared little kid that desperately wants to run home from the bus stop. We see you, chest out and scowling, joking and clowning, juju, running man, dabbing. Maybe some of you just compensating for the only cloud in the sky loneliness you carry with you like an unfinished project. We see you crushed and squirming under an anvil of APs and honors and extracurriculars, stretched thinner than thread, and on the very last legs of sanity. We see you.
The reality is you're hiding in plain sight. Behind an oversized t-shirt, eye makeup that conceals your pain, hair that begs for the attention that you try to avoid.
I've compared myself to friends and strangers and have felt as though I wasn't tall enough or thin enough, felt like my clothes weren't stylish enough. And after a while, it actually really takes a toll. There are times where I just don't feel like I'm good enough.
You are more than the sum of your parts, because parts are only pieces and they don't define your existence. Neither do their stares or your own angry voices. Their whispers aren't your story. Don't let your tears be their victory.
Because you are good enough.
Because you're good enough.
Labels don't define you. When they say, "What are you?" they really want to know, who are you? They don't know how to see you outside the box, outside the lines. There's power in not fitting into a box. Stand out and be you. Because you'll be amazed what happens when you stop imitating their expectations and start freeing yourself to just be you.
Okay, so I grew up in 3 states, went to 9 different schools, and never lived in one house longer than 4 years. And probably the hardest part about that was every time I would make friends, we'd get moved. And it didn't help that I was the only black kid in my classes. When we moved down to Virginia, my brother said, "Hey, the best part about this move is that you'll have black people that you know that are not related to you. The worst part about that move is those were the kids that bullied me."
So I've always been the bigger girl. I've never been the size 2 or even the size 4. And when I was in middle school, that seemed to give girls the right to push me around, and especially older girls. When I went into the bathroom one day, a bunch of older girls decided they were going to follow me in and beat me up. And one of them even slammed my head into a hand dryer. Fortunately, that was the only time that the physical things took place, but the emotional abuse, the bullying, continued all the way through high school.
We know they no longer use sticks and stones, but Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. They no longer try to break your bones, but break your soul. We see your brave faces when the world is crashing in and no one else seems to understand, checking your phones, too afraid to not know who said what about you and where to find the evidence or the courage to keep going.
We didn't live in the digital age.
We can't relate.
But we can tell you it gets better.
You will find confidence in the darkest moments.
You will find peace in the wisdom of age.
I know that doesn't help you now.
But in the meantime,
remember, you are good enough.
You're less alone than you imagine, and I know a night as pitch black as ignorance can confuse even a soul that points true north. But you are bursting at the seams of ordinary. And ordinary is where the battleground fades to complacency. And sometimes, I know that it might feel easier to lie down in that battle. Give up what's truly great about you. Let go of the infinite problems that plague your existence, that shut doors in your face, that scream you are not good enough. In the wake of your absence, we're left to wonder about you, about us, what could have been done. But that's the problem. We're left here, in the empty halls that are screaming your name and the tears in the bathroom that wash away all of our innocence.
If I could tell you one thing.
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 If I could tell you one thing, it would be that the world is less lovely without you, that our lives are less rich, that our hearts are more empty because you do matter. You are good enough.
In my family, there's been 4 people who have committed suicide. I was very young for the first one, and I was already teaching when the last one had happened. My grandfather, my aunt, my uncle, and my stepdad. And to this day, I really don't know why they did it, and I have no answers. I still think about it and just wonder what their real reasoning was. I know what I think, but I will never know what they thought.
We know what it feels like to feel so intensely, to be overwhelmed, unprepared, emotions that crash over you like tidal waves, some that pull you below the surface while you struggle to stay above. Sometimes it's easier to float than to fight. We see you when you're trying so hard to pretend that those feelings aren't there, and we want you to know.
Your feelings don't make you weak.
Or a loser.
Or a wuss.
Or less of a man.
Or overdramatic.
They make you human. And believe it or not, sometimes we drown in our own feelings too.
We're right there with you, and it's okay not to be okay sometimes.
So 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and probably some sort of social phobia / anxiety. What that means is I go home after every single day of teaching and I replay every conversation I've had with every student over and over again, and sometimes that induces really terrible panic attacks, and it's just something I deal with like on a daily basis.
And it's okay if you don't have the new Jordans or know who had the best party last night, if the only friends on your Facebook account are family members, or if you can barely afford to pay for your dinner. Life isn't a race. Even if you feel like you have the best start, some can barely see the starting line. Remember, the future measures your hopes, not your worries.
I was born to teenage parents who really couldn't get it together. They divorced when I was very young. I bounced around back and forth between my mothers and my fathers and even my grandparents. There wasn't a whole lot of money. And actually my senior year in high school, I was considered homeless for a short period of time.
And we may not know your trails home or the hurts that have created scars on the deepest parts of your soul, but we know that you are better than that no or that needle or that homophobic slur or society's boisterous bullying chants of social expectation. The loudest voices can be the most offensive, but the quiet whispers can hurt just as much. The power doesn't lie in the volume, but in your own ideas, and we want to hear them quietly, boisterously, on paper, from the mountaintops, in our inboxes.
And I don't know if my voice is loud or significant.
Or if this is the right way to reach you.
Am I doing enough to help you?
Support you.
Or save you?
But there's nothing wrong with trying.
We know you, but we don't know your soul. And we don't know your troubles. But trouble is a creature we've fought before. He knocks on doors without abandon. And I know that face. I've seen it before. You are good enough, even if you didn't get asked to homecoming.
Ace the test.
Get hugged enough. Told I love you. Picked first for anything.
I'm a terrible test taker. After finishing my bachelor's degree in nursing, I went to take my exam to be licensed as a registered nurse. I was devastated because I did not pass the exam by 9 points.
Sports has always been a priority in my life. I grew up playing 3 sports in high school: football, baseball, and basketball. In football, I was a starting quarterback in my sophomore and junior year. My senior year was horrible. I was benched, never had a chance to play. It was a blow to my ego, but also my identity as an athlete was tied into my identity as a person.
When all around you there are no's, and your feet are stuck in the mud of others' expectations and opinions, look around you.
We believe in you.
You are good enough.
You are loved.
Your journey is just beginning. There's no end to your potential. So when we call your name at graduation,
We'll also call you courageous.
Admirable.
A fighter.
We're proud of you.
You are good enough.
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 you are good enough.